Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Angela, and today's topic I want to talk about how you protect your children from the abuse they may have seen during the relationship and also after the abuse that they may be going through, whether it's physical or mental abuse from their parents since they're no longer in the home with you. Before I get started, I want to read my disclaimers. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911, or you can reach out to the domestic hotline at 800-799-SAFE, 800-799-7233. And for mental health resources, reach out to NAMI at 800-950-NAMI, 800-950-6264. And you can also text NAMI at 741741. Again, please remember to like my videos, subscribe, and share them. So I wrote a few notes about dealing with children after the abuse and how you need to protect them. I know that when I separated with my children's father, I had to deal with him constantly telling the kids that it's my fault that I broke up the relationship. He would often sometimes talk about me to the kids. I never did the same thing. I actually had to deprogram them when they came back home. I had to let them know that things that he was saying wasn't true. I never did a disparaging word against him because I figured that they would see who he was once they grew up. The courts don't want to hear you say things that he's not right in the head or that he suffer from some type of mental issues. They're not listening to that, especially if you come up saying that he's a narcissist. They don't want to hear anything like that because they're not there to determine whether this person is mentally capable of raising kids. They're just there to divide property. And unfortunately, the courts look at your kids as an asset. So they divide the time equally between the two parents, as long as this parent is not beating on the kids or things of that nature. So the courts really don't get involved with that, and it leaves you there to try to protect your kids from what's going on with this person. In my relationship, I noticed that he was sending messages back, especially to the youngest child, telling him to ask me certain questions and just, really isolating him and talking to him about our relationship. And then I can remember one time he got upset because the youngest child said, well, mom doesn't love you anymore. So he actually stopped talking to him for a while. He would go missing and wouldn't want to come around the kids. Sometimes he would leave them at the daycare and I would have to rush back over to the daycare to pick them up. So it was always this battle with him, because that's what a narcissist would do. Once they can't have you anymore, they smear your name against anybody, and that's the way things went in that relationship. So you have to protect your children from that, and you really have to pray and hope that your children doesn't pick up the parents' traits or the behavior, because sometimes and often cases, unfortunately, they start to mimic that person. They start to take on their traits and they start to become just like that person. And then sad to say, you'll be creating a narcissist. So when you know that things are going on, do your best. Keep your kids away if you can. I mean, if the person's got money, they're going to take you to court. I know that in my relationship, I thought that things would be best if he just stayed away, but I never actually told him to stay away. I was thankful when he didn't come, but it hurts the kids when they sit there and they're waiting for him to come. You have to make an excuse. I got creative with it. He would say that he's on his way and never show up. So I would just stop telling him that he's coming. I would get them ready, and if he didn't show up by the time that he said, then we would just go out and do something that day, because I couldn't take the fact that my kids were sitting there in the window waiting for him to come. So I dealt with that a lot with my kids, and I tried to make it as best as I could for them in the home. I was always there. I, tried to make their living space not perfect, because I'm not perfect, but livable. I made them comfortable. I tried to give them everything that they needed, except the other parent, and it was hard because sometimes you feel like you're up against the world when you have this person that's steadily talking down to you, down to your children about you. So that's the hard part about it, and the other thing is you sit there and you just try to not be a part of the back and forth between the kids. When the children come home and say, well, dad or mom said this about you, you have to find a delicate way to say, well, that person is not right. And you just say this person is a monster and he's mentally ill and he needs help because of his childhood trauma, or whatever the case may be. You can't go into details with a kid like that. You just have to find a delicate way to say that this person is going through something and that they're upset, but don't let that bother you. And it's a fight. It's hard, because I'll never forget, I had friends, and we were going through the same thing where we had to send our children to the parent that was the abuser. And of course, they're not hitting on the kids or things like that, but we always would say that when the child came back home, we had to deprogram them. And that's really the most hardest thing, because when they get to that parent's house, they make it a fun house. You can eat candy for breakfast, you can do this and you can do that. And when they come home to you, there's structure and rules. So the kid is, looking at you as being the bad parent. And that's what they set out to do. But I'm just here to say, if you are going through that, stay focused on the child. Keep giving the child positive messages, positive reinforcement that you're going to always be there for this child. You're going to love them no matter what. And never talk bad about the other parent, because you don't want to be a part of making this kid feel like he has two parents that are just horrible. So you be the one that's going to be that rock for the child, and you try your best to do whatever it takes. I was reading somewhere, they said that you have to release the control of what's going on at the other house, meaning if the child is not being, abused or anything of that nature, but you can't control what's going on in that house. You have to just focus on your household and make sure that the household that the child is at with you is comfortable and loving. And then another thing that they mentioned, minimize the contact you have with that person. Don't allow them to call you and interrupt your time with the child. Also, make sure that when they do call you, that it's only if there's an emergency. Don't allow them to call you, and don't allow them to come in your house. Don't go in their house when you're dropping them off. Just keep it neutral. And then also, set clear boundaries. Make sure that you're not letting this person walk over the time that you have with your child, and that you're not making your time short just so this person can be with the kid. Don't allow them to use the guilt trip that they're no longer in the home, so you wanted to come 2 or 3 hours to visit with the kids. Don't do that. That's because what they're doing is playing a game. They're using that time to make it seem like you didn't want to be with the kid, or you was tired of being with them. So don't get, caught up into that little drama that they like to play. And, document everything that they're doing. Try your best to protect your kid as much as you can. And if you have to go to court, do that. So when you go to the courts, they can set some clear boundaries. I was blessed to where at one point we actually left the state, and I had the children with me for 4 years, and it was they grew up okay. Everything was fine. They didn't have this other person coming to visit them and talk down to them, even though he was doing it over the phone, but it wasn't in their face as much. So that was a relief for me. And we actually did come back, and the kids had kind of somewhat grown up, but he still was relentless in talking about me and how it's my fault and how I took them away from him, which I didn't. He had stopped visiting with the kids way before we decided to leave the state. He would show up sometimes every 6 months, or he could go a year without seeing the children. So that was just, that's damage to the kids. That's really damaging. So I was left to try to make things right. As I said, I was the single parent. I was the mom and dad, and I was doing the best that I could. So don't, one thing I want to say to these parents that are out here doing the best that they can, don't beat yourself up about the things that you did. Don't sit there and take responsibility or how a child may have turned out to be. That's not your fault because you did what you could. And so release that self-doubt and that self-blame. Release the self-pity that you had when you were trying to raise your kids. You did the best that you can. And I'm going to say it. I know most people may not believe this, but I believe it. Continue to pray about your children mental. Go to God about whatever you see that may be wrong. I'm not saying that that's going to fix everything, but for me it will, and it did. So continue to pray about it. If you think your kids need counseling, take them and get counseling. Talk to them honestly without putting the other parent down. And I hope that this is helping someone. If you know someone that's in this situation, please share this video, talk to them, and try to be there for them. What we need right now is people to uplift one another and not put people down because of the choices they made. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.